Hi, hello, and welcome to this channel. It is like really late, and I'm like, I've been here since what time? What time did I get this? 4 o'clock? It's like 6 hours. I mean, not here, give or take about 6 hours. um, I got a nice coffee today, and the number was 7,118. The 7118. I was like, oh, interesting. So there's an 11 justice between 7 and 8. And we saw the 7 of realm, 7 of earth, 7 of pentacles, even recently. And we've also seen justice, a few iterations of justice. So it's that like 7 being the almost breakthrough, 8 being reaching a state of adeptness and on the path to mastery. um I was like, I'm gonna pull, because I was thinking at first 7, 11, 8 is like the chariot, justice, and strength. But then, because there's also been a theme lately of the sometimes justice is 8, sometimes strength is 8. And when justice is 8, then strength is 11. And when strength is 8, then justice is 11. Right? So at first, it kind of sort of went from this strength and justice, or power and justice, you could say, needing to be aligned to move something forward, or as things move forward, because the will of the charioteer puts the two horses that have a tendency to go in different directions on the same page. And I guess you could say it's not often, or at the very least there are times when power and justice don't necessarily align, because sometimes it's the powerful that determine what justice, mm, not necessarily what justice is, but power has its own court of law, and the ruling in the court of power and what may truly be considered just can sometimes not be the same thing, right? And then just sort of in general, it's, bro, I feel like I want to rewatch that whole, like, what does the rest of the Year of the Snake have to offer video? Because it's been crazy. And hold up. Oh, never mind. I also got a notification the other day that Saturn had entered Pisces. Excuse me, and y'all know I'm not up on astrology like I used to be. I feel like it's been years now that I've been saying that. Current planets. Saturn is 0 degrees, 14 minutes Aries. Neptune is 0 degrees, 35 minutes Aries, according to this app that I'm using. So it's interesting. Mercury isn't retrograde yet, but it should be retrograding soon. It's interesting that both of those planets entered Aries before Mercury's retrograde. Jupiter's already retrograding Cancer. Right now, according to Astromatrix, there is a grand water trine between the midheaven at 13 degrees Scorpio, the north, no, Jupiter at 15 degrees Cancer, and Mercury at basically 15 degrees Cancer. 54 minutes, 55 minutes, 57 minutes. So 1 degree between Scorpio and Cancer. No, 1 degree between Scorpio and Pisces. 1 degree between Pisces and Cancer. 2 degrees between Scorpio and Cancer. So you could say that Pisces sits in between. Yeah, because it's basically 14 degrees Scorpio. basically 15 Pisces, and then basically 16 Cancer. And then the North Node is a degree and some change away from Venus. Anyway, it's interesting that, oh, we're already in new moon territory, which I guess makes sense because Chinese New Year is tomorrow, day after tomorrow. It's roughly tomorrow because it's basically the 16th. Mars is in Aquarius. Anyway, it's interesting that before Mercury goes retrograde Pisces, that Saturn and Neptune have cleared the house. I'm sure there's a retrograde calendar. Retrogrades. Oh, yeah, it starts on the 26th. Okay. Anyway, oh no. Mercury is retrograding water signs this year. Anyway, it's so interesting. It feels like a lot of this is why I respect high priestess title card energy as much as I do. Because it seems like there's a new, not a new tone. So there's some things that are like actually happening now, right? There's information that's been had for who knows how long, and more has come out, more and more that has come out is also available because not everything that came out was available. There are calls to action, there are things happening. It seems like I'm not abreast of everything. Some voluntarily, some not so much, I'm sure. And I was talking to my number one fan the other day, just like the vacuum that would be created because it's so many, like so many industries and so many, not fields. I guess you could say fields are like affected. And it's just like this massive vacuum that would be created if and when justice sort of happens, right? And then I'm just like thinking about the vacuum. But then I remember it was the Magic the Gathering cards, and even in the Dynasty, Ten of Pentacles and the SKT about life that grows in the vacuum. But it was like the supermassive, the supernova, whatever, the black hole, the supermassive black hole. And also, again, there was something about the Abraham Lincoln of the clarity and resolution and clarity. I'm just kind of like, oh. And the whole, was it the Page of Wands that was looking for a new word? And also with the whole, what, months ago, there's like, also, and I heard it yesterday in passing that like there's nothing new under the sun. But then it was like the image of that like Olodumare energy or the firmament, like the gap between the firmament and earth has like increased over time, whole with thunder descending from the heavens, the new word. And so I'm like pondering strength and justice and putting those two on the same page, and what the price of justice is in terms of stuff that's way beyond me. And so I was gonna pull before I wanted to do, first of all, just like both justices. And I feel like even justice has been coming out for a minute. with the whole like the court of man versus divine law. And with that seven, there is a potential for alignment between the court of man and divine law, which would be interesting. But then I was like, I don't know. And I haven't pulled a deck yet. Um, I'm pretty sure I've gone live. Maybe I haven't actually. All drawers are open. So then I was like, oh, I could do like the I can pull a card from the African American tarot, right? But then I was like, I don't necessarily want to do that here with this, right? Um, oh, so when I was thinking about that, 7, 11, 8, injustice and justice, or strength and strength, I thought of Zadkiel, Angel of Mercy, but it's definitely like sliding scale type. But I don't know. I'm looking at the Star Dragons. I almost wish I had the Dungeons and Dragons tarot. I think I'm missing a card in that deck, and I don't remember which one it is. I'm pretty sure I'm missing a card in that deck. I took it on a chalk, and then I mean, I guess I don't really have anything in mind, so I could do that. I could ask my favorite virtual assistant, but I'm not necessarily. There's something in this drawer that I want to use. I haven't used this deck enough. I barely use this deck. And honestly, Geneva, Switzerland. Interesting. It's the Tarot of Magical Correspondences. I was gifted this deck. This is a Eugene Vanitsky deck. This whole time I had a Eugene Vanitsky deck. Shout out to Queen Cup. Queen Cup, if you know, you know. Um, but she's used that deck. I've seen her use it before. I don't think I clocked that it was Eugene Vanitsky, though. I guess I can use this one. I don't necessarily know. Intelligence of the mediating influence at the bottom of the deck, Six of Swords. Tiferet the Heart. This is authenticated and everything. Radical Intelligence was the last card. Five of Coins. Radical Intelligence and Intelligence of the Mediating Influence. Also, you can probably tell the you're further away today. I don't know why. Usually I have the laptop and camera to the side, and then like I have them side by side instead of the laptop camera behind. But this is where it is today. That Radical Intelligence Five of Coins came right back out with Gavura, which is the center of the Pillar of Severity, right? Now the intelligence of the mediating influence is the Knight of Cups, where it was what the Six of Swords maybe before. The vision of the harmony of things. okay. I think Gavura is the center of the pillar of severity. Or is Gavura, and that I have I almost pulled that deck. The Angelarium Oracle of the Fallen. And in that book, well, in the deck, they have the different spheres of the Kabbalah tree of life. And so a lot of my understanding comes from this. Ooh, it's judgment. Never mind. Yeah, defines the pillar's trait of severity. I said severity, right? And then the right hand is chesed. Is that the pillar of mercy? Yeah, the pillar of mercy. Okay. We'll just see what's up. I'm gonna give it a few shuffles and we'll go from there. It's just the whole, it feels like there's the whole thing about the new word, the whole thing about the sort of Abraham Lincoln of it, to me, is that again, in the presence of that, there's almost, you could say, because things are as deeply rooted as they are, not only is it like deeply rooted, it's also as widespread as it is, that with a sudden excision, it leaves, it creates a vacuum, right? I'm re-listening to this audiobook that I'm like, anyway, there's this massive plant in this one section, in this one part of the book, in one of the books, it's a series anyway. There's this huge plant that it's one of those like single organisms, but very like widespread. And they effectively eliminate the plant, but with like the roots and the plant and everything, it was subterranean. The bulk of the body was subterranean. And with that sudden absence, it's like the ground sort of caves in a little bit because what was underneath is now gone. And so again, it's that vacuum, it's a little bit of a cave in and an inherent amount of chaos and the time in between. But with the flower, and oh, the Kabbalah tree of life. LOL. Maybe I should find the first void card. I don't even know if there are void cards in this deck, honestly. But with the flower and the void of the SKT dynasty, the Ten of Pentacles, and also I'm pretty sure the U came out recently in the first draft of the La Fruma Oracle cards, and it was a whole thing about the thing growing from the inside. Just maybe would have necessarily, and also it plays into the like the beyond illusion, right? Sometimes in order to avoid a void or a vacuum or an inherent chaos that comes with the removal of something key or foundational, regardless of how rotted it may be, there could be like a hesitation of like, okay, well, who and or what would step in? And I don't know, it was just something about like not necessarily allowing that question of what would happen, or the very real threat of not allowing that to stop what needs to be done from being done. Because it's like something's been growing in the void, something is ready to stand in the place of that vacuum. It won't be sort of empty, not for long. And that also kind of sort of goes back to, anyway, I'm just like, all right, let's get a card. Am I gonna do? I don't. I'll get one first. Okay. It's face down. I love a face down card. For as much of a for as much as I love a face down card, eventually you have to turn it face up, right? I mean, the only way to not turn this card face up would be to literally go through every other single card in the deck to eliminate the 77 other possibilities. And by process of elimination, discover the 78th. But we're not going to do that. I'm looking at the card back, these like two crowns specifically, and the roses. Maybe it's here. Oh, that's why. And the roses underneath. The light is like here, right here, and the camera is here. So it's like the closer it gets, the darker it gets. Oh, but there you go. You can still see it. Is that? That's almost that Keeper of Karnak energy, but with the Keeper of Karnak, it's more specifically the closer you get to the light source, the longer, the bigger, the darker, the more defined the shadow becomes. And here, it's beyond the light source, but still in front of the, not aperture. It is the aperture, but I feel like there's a word that starts with a P. I don't know, the perspective viewpoint. The card is the Five of Wands, Gavura. This is Saturn and Leo, the vision of power. We have this whip again. Excuse me. We have these five wands that usually when we see the Five of Wands, it's a card of conflict or contention, kind of contest. But it's like these five wands are arranged in a more structural. I mean, I guess I can't go up there and just let the, there you go. That's more of a structural configuration. It gives like the bones of it, from what I've seen, it gives like the bones of a teepee or a tent, right? So, like not necessarily the smallest, but a smaller dwelling space. Because if like bigger than that, that's of course when you get into like, and again, this is just how it's coming through. I don't know nothing about nothing. But it's like if you get larger than a teepee, you'd be more in like a wigwam territory, right? More like a hall, something elongated, and it would, you can get more than one or two or three people in here if it's large enough. And this point where they meet, the whip can be discipline, more so self discipline. I don't know what this plan is. I don't even know what this book reads like. I think the book does go through all the symbolism. Again, this is Gevura, which is the center of the pillar of severity. We have the eye here. Is that a left eye? That's a right eye, right? Because the right eye has the water thingy on the inside, like that thing on the inside of the eye is on the left side. It's this. So that's the right eye. The right eye is Chakma. Binda is the left eye, and Chakma is wisdom. And again, I'm going off of the Peter Moorbacher. I'm sure there's a more legitimate source, but this is what I got. Chakma, right eye, wisdom. Wisdom and radical intelligence. A disciplined wisdom and a radical intelligence. I was watching something else today. And this was, I think before I got the 7-Eleven 8 iced coffee. It's kind of sort of, I was watching two things today, I feel like, and it kind of sort of came up. A concept of it feels so weird to try to put language because again the situation is what it is. There's something about like a consideration for the future, but I feel like it's what you consider or where we place our priorities when it comes to consideration for the future. And I wish that there was a simple example that would come to mind. But if we're prioritizing safety and well being, it could lead to a very different verdict than if we're prioritizing the status quo. And the status quo being reducing that vacuum as much as possible because we have more fear than understanding of what it could lead to. When you prioritize safety and well being, it's like it puts you in a different sphere of influence, I want to say. And sphere of influence being like the resources that are available. If influence were a domain, right, then that sphere of influence would be one of well being. And within that sphere of influence, you get all kinds of things that are sort of geared towards well being. But if the sphere of influence is the status quo, then there may be some things that it's like reside within the domain or reside within the sphere of well being that would be elusive or hard to find within the sphere of keeping things as constant as possible. And so it feels like that's kind of where this disciplined wisdom and radical intelligence kind of sort of come to be. It almost made me think of the whole like what was it? It was like Aries and Gemini. It came out when I used the dice rolling program, and it was like Aries and Gemini were in like a combative sort of. It read like a combative configuration, but Aries and Gemini are supposed to be like cooperative energies. Radical intelligence, disciplined wisdom, and severity. Yeah, it depends on what you prioritize, and like something depending on what we prioritize, it feels like it meshes well with the energy of the chariot, which is the will of the charioteer being the thing that puts these things on the same path. So if we are within the realm of the status quo, minimizing a void vacuum, making things as certain as possible, especially with the certainty based upon previous goings on. Um, that's where things may sort of tip more over into power than necessarily justice, right? 7, 11, 8. 11 and 8 being strength and justice, or justice and strength, right? I don't ever show, do I ever like show these numbers? I mean, I guess you could just trust me. And if you don't trust me, then use your intuition discernment. Let's see. I think I could just like fold this down, right? You see that? Oh, you can't even see it. 7, 11, 8. 7, 1, 1, 8. I don't know why I'm showing that, but hey, there you go. Cool. Bottom of the deck is administrative intelligence, works of malediction and death. This is the world, which is the Assad and Malkut, and it's Saturn. Here we have Saturn in Leo. Saturn is at the bottom of the deck. So we moved from what, mediating intelligence or whatever, to administrative intelligence. Interesting. Is that a Tau? What is Tau? Well, it's been a long time since I've seen Tau. And I don't remember. I'm drawing a blank. And I don't really want to look it up. We have the Ankh here. We have what looks, it to me it reads like, is it Venus de Milo? Maybe not. The statue of Venus, but it like it has its arms. It didn't lose the arms. So to see the Ankh there with that, Tau minus 400. What does that mean? So it is Tau. There's a crocodile here, which I don't remember the name. But we have seen with the right eye it was given. I was like, I know we've seen both the eye of Ra and the eye of Horus. That like it was on the back. I was playing a game because I remember now. It was like on the back of my mind, in the back of my mind after I finished that one live where they both came up, and I'm playing a game, and then they randomly like came back to my mind. I forget what was happening, but I remember I was playing that game last time. And where I was in the game at that point was there was this material that was invented invented because it was created, but it feels more like a discovery than an invention. I don't know why. Or I don't know where the um not semantics, the connotations sort of lie. It feels like it has a connotation of discovery, but it was actually a process of invention. And I guess you can like they don't necessarily have to be mutually exclusive. Discovery to me reads like something that is whole or something that is already complete, whereas invention involves a sort of process, some kind of like manufacturing, processing, editing, right? Discovery to me reads more like this thing was just found. Anyway, there's this material that they found has the power to remove corruption and to hold it at, to hold both hold at bay and to remove corruption. But the process for creating this material is so rigorous that it's like it's not reliable or it's not what's the word? I can't find any words. Mercury going retrograde. Like it's not feasible. Like they don't know how to reliably produce enough of the material to remove the corruption that exists and to create enough safe areas. And so over time, it's like they sacrifice different parts of the city, concentrate their ability to or to improve their ability to create stability. Right. And then in the video game, you come along with this revolutionary process to make a lot of the material easily. And they're like, oh my gosh, we're so thankful, right? That's where I was in the game. At that point, we were there's someone who like for like loses their memory. They kind of are this historical figure that enters and re-enters the fray every however many years, and then they go into a stasis and then they come back, right? And I think at that point, you're like looking for articles to try to like someone, yeah, basically. And it's color too, which is interesting. It is, oh, it's even kind of like, let's see. And what did it mean? I forget what it means. In the game, they said it means something. Not granite, huh? I don't know if I'm gonna find it. Let me put it in the game. Arc Knight Infield. Is that the name of the game? I've been much I should know. Anyway, it's that kind of sort of jady greenish color. Yeah, it is Arknight's Infield. But I can't find a picture of like the sheer night pillars or whatever. But anyway, it's this like jady green color. The crocodile there, interesting to me because we saw maybe in the last life, um, there was it was death. It was the coffin. Was it the coffin? We saw the coffin and it had Anubis in the coffin. But I think it was a different card in the Gilded Reverie Lenormand that had the scales of Anubis with the heart and the feather. And it was like better than the feather because of all this other stuff. There's been this levity that's been making the heart lighter and lighter and lighter. The crocodile is the one that consumes or eats the heavy hearted folk. And it's interesting that this is the path between Yesod and Malkut. I really wish I could remember what I've seen Tau represent. Or even like, I said I wasn't going to look it up. I'm going to look it up. Why not? I mean, I already looked up. That's why it auto corrected to granite, not granite, Shiranite. Hello? I still can't find a picture of the pillar, so it doesn't really matter. Let's see. Tau. I almost want to say it's what was that class? It wasn't thermodynamics. Okay, let's see. Modern usage symbolism. In ancient times, Tau was used as a symbol for life or resurrection, whereas Theta was considered the symbol of death, which is interesting because Theta also represents a difference, right? So if you have like Theta big T, that's a change in temperature. A change. It represents a change. In biblical times, the Tau was put on men to distinguish those who lamented sin, although newer versions of the Bible have replaced the ancient term Tau with mark or signature. Okay, I'm looking for something more modern. So yeah, let's go up here. That was the symbolism modern usage. I should have just went there. Specific tax amount. Biology. The express period of the free running rhythm of an animal. The dose interval in pharmacokinetics. In biochemistry, a protein associated with microtubules and implicated in neurodegenerative diseases. Wait, this girl, I thought we were almost there. Divisor function. Okay, yeah. Stopping time in stochastic processes. It's 2 pi tau functions. Torsion of a curve. I don't think I'm gonna. I don't think I'm gonna get it. Physics, proper time and relativity, shear stress and continuum mechanics. Maybe the lifetime of a spontaneous emission process. Optical depth and astronomy. Time. Maybe I've seen tau represented as some kind of time, a time constant of any system such as an RC circuit. Torque. Okay. Yeah. In thermophysics, the symbol for the characteristic energy, tau equals kT. What's K? What kinetic? Oh, it's a constant. Duh. Oh, yeah, the Boltzmann's constant, K sub B. Okay. Anyway, the Arrhenius equation. This is stuff. Hold up. What? What is happening? An update? Girl, we can do that later. Get this. No, no, thank you. No, thank you. I don't remember what Tao is. I feel like I've seen it in reference to time. Like that's one of the ones that is anyway, it's fine. What's interesting? Okay, so this is interesting actually. We go from this gold with Saturn and Leo to this darker color with just Saturn. And it reminds me of, you see that? The gold of Saturn and Leo with the gold, with the darker color of that, just Saturn. It brings to mind the, what I've heard, because I was like, the theory question mark, that like before the sun was the center of our solar system, like Saturn was the sun before the sun was the sun, which I guess is like assuming the sun is like some explosion that's happening over an extended period of time. Before that was there, then stuff could have just been there. And Jupiter is like, yeah, anyway. It's also interesting that this is works of malediction and death, but it's represented by Tau. And Tau is associated with like rebirth, right? In life. What's a malediction? I know I've heard of like a benediction, right? Isn't that like a Catholic thing? Malediction meaning a magical word or phrase uttered with the intention of bringing about evil or destruction, a curse. I feel like I could have guessed that. I feel like that just it plays back into the whole like priorities thing, right? So again, in the case of the vacuum or the void, it's giving very much like Wizard of Oz, Wicked Witch of the whatever, when she's doused with water and she's melting. And it's like the malediction is like her as she's melting, like her last curse. Like it's girl, let's Valentine's Day was yesterday. I saw a card today. I saw it was like this jumbo card. It was like a casket with like these purple flowers. And the card read, "You don't have to be dead to me." And I'm like, what? And then on the inside it just said like fun while it lasted. I'm just like, okay. But that whole like you don't have to be dead to me with this towel, more so though, the malediction, it's like, and maybe that plays back into the whole, I mean, there's a part of it that's like, if I could have a coherent thought, I would communicate it, I promise. It's like malediction and death. It's very much that like as the wicked witch is melting, as the toxicity is being excised and removed, it's that whole like this is as good as it's gonna get and you're not gonna get any better, or it's that whole like, well, if I'm going down then I'm taking everybody with me, or it's something like that that's meant to invoke like panic and fear or whatever else. Maybe not necessarily meant to, but it can sometimes meant to, yes, that is to scare someone into maintaining the status quo, right? Rather than, and that's how we prioritize things in the spheres of influence. So with that, it's like within the sphere of influence of well-being, that malediction has no power. And that's when it's like an empty threat, or it only has the power that we give it. But within the sphere of the status quo, it has a lot more power because maintaining a normalcy is the priority, but a huge chunk of what was responsible for the normal that we had grown accustomed to is now going to be removed, or something is being done with it. So it's like, of course, like things aren't necessarily going to be the same because this whole thing is like it's being removed. But if normalcy is our priority, again, it puts us within a certain framework, or we put ourselves within a certain framework because that's what we're aiming for, prioritizing, whatever. But again, in the other sort of frame, you could say when Saturn is in Leo, that malediction has no power because the sun is there, the source of light that I just stared directly into. But without the sun, when Saturn is the sun, or when everything revolves around Saturn, then of course it would have more power. I didn't even, between the Ankh and the whip, it's like the whip is the Ankh unfolding or unfurling, if you see that. Okay, maybe I should just hold it here. Right? It's like if you put this part of the whip like around itself, and then you just like basically coil that around it, it would look more like the Ankh. But when you like remove it and start to unfold it, that's where we get this disciplined wisdom. And the shadow of Venus, or the shadow of Venusian energy, can be comfortability, or um, insubstantiality, a lack of substance. It's again, it's like wanting to be comfortable and wanting everything to look pretty, which again is like it's that's that whole like preserving and maintaining the status quo type energy. Okay. I mean, I do have this whole other deck. Am I going to use it? No, I don't even know if that would be Zadkiel, Angel of Mercy, or if that would be another angel. I could look before and after Gabriel. Or I could look before and after the left leg, which is Hod, because either Hod or Tiferet, because that's the connection between Gavora and Yesod and Malkut. Actually, see, it's like this one right here, or here. It's like I should move this camera, but it's fine. You could either pass through the left leg of submission, I believe, or you could pass through the heart. If you take the left leg of submission, that touches both Yesod and Malkut, whereas the heart only touches Yesod. Or it would look like the heart only touches Yesod, but that is a two-dimensional depiction. meaning the heart could touch both Yesod and Malkut. Like if it were three dimensional, like here's the heart, and what do I have? What do I have? Oh, I have a stylus. Okay. And I have a straw that is used, right? It's like this, right? So this is the heart. This is Yesod. This is Malkut. If I turn it like this, it would look like it's connected to Yesod, and then Yesod is connected to Malkut. But in reality, it's connected to both of them. But again, it's a two-dimensional picture. So you kind of lose that depth. And it somehow feels like losing depth is a characteristic of, you could say, losing depth is a of maintaining the status quo. Whereas involving depth and nuance is a characteristic of wellness, because when it comes to wellness, there are many arenas and aspects. There are many needs, just speaking off of necessity, that need to be fulfilled in order for wellness to actually be a thing, right? So, and for wellness to be a thing for many people, it almost has to involve a certain amount of depth and nuance, because not everyone needs the same things in the same ways. And the status quo is almost inherently more catered towards a majority, or what's perceived as a majority, or what's perceived of as important. And everyone else just kind of sort of finds their own way. Or I could just I'm just gonna shuffle the cards and we'll see what comes out. Since I already opened this. Yesod, root connection, and the angel of mercy is at the bottom of the deck. On the other side of the angel of mercy is the angel of memory. I am gonna actually shuffle these though, so Peter was at the top. And it feels like there's also something there. And maybe that plays into this. Because again, with the malediction or the works of malediction and death, when that loop is closed, versus this vision of power when it's open, with that discerning wisdom and radical intelligence. Because again, the Yonk is a symbol of life. And for like with life, there is an inherent interconnectedness and expansiveness and diversity, right? The plants take sunlight and convert it into food, and the herbivores eat the plants, and then the carnivores and omnivores eat the herbivores, and it's this whole chain, right? If you only plant, it's also giving the whole like crop rotation, right? If you don't rotate your crops, the soil is either going to be devoid of certain nutrients, or it's going to be like too densely packed with certain nutrients, right? But when it's closed, and it feels like it's a very, excuse me, human thing to do, to try to contain or maintain life in order to like propagate it. But it actually tends to ruin, or it can. Anyway. Ooh. Okay. Oh, ooh, 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 ooh. I almost went looking before and after. Phanuel, angel of truth. Why am I not surprised? It's Phanuel, angel of truth. Well, the interesting thing about being a conscious being is our ability to decide what is true for us. To, in a way, decide what is true, but the counterbalance to that is that other conscious beings get to decide how true that how true someone else's truth is for them. And then if you say consensus is a reality, consensus reality is what we mostly agree upon as true. And then of course there are, people that experience different. And it's interesting that like this orb creates the flame. And Keter was at the cut with Yasad, the root. Keter is associated with spirituality. So spirituality fuels the fire of truth and whatever we believe, right? Again, it's not groundbreaking. Not that anything necessarily has to be, but it feels like, again, that plays into the spheres of influence and what we prioritize and how our priorities interact with our beliefs to create these truths that inform our experience. Right. So if we are convinced to believe, if we buy into the malediction, then it holds a lot more power than if we don't. That actually reminds me of something else. Bottom of the deck is Leliel, Angel of Night. And with that crescent moon, it feels like it serves both as a symbol of what we believe and or know to be true is only ever a fraction of the full truth. But it also serves as a symbol of what we hold to be true can blind us to certain things, which are effectively the same, but different. Am I going to read Phanuel Angel of Truth? I didn't even read these other cards. And again, there's something of foundations here with that Five of Wands that's now in reverse, which is interesting. Phanuel Angel of... Hey, there's Leliel. But I'm not looking for Leliel right now. Phanuel Angel of Truth. Like, these are not in alphabetical order. Angel of Truth, Phanuel. Phanuel will wait for your arrival. It was here long before you arrived, standing at the threshold to the throne room. You may not have borne witness. Okay, I'm gonna start all over because that was a period, but it read like it came out of nowhere. Phanuel will wait for your arrival. It was here long before you arrived, standing at the threshold to the throne room. You may not have borne witness. Its sound may have escaped you, but Phanuel has waited there for you, eager to wrap you in a cloak of truth. Reality is ever present. It is a simple matter to find it. It is another, much more difficult task to understand that its truth can be different from capital T truth. Hold the torch high, see what stands before you for what it is. Signs are wine, a torch, and a bleeding eye. Interesting. Well, we got the fire. here. And we got a wand. Wand plus fire equals torch. Eye plus whip equals a bleeding eye. Really? Sorry. But when it comes to like discipline focus, it's like if you hold a staring contest and then like your eyes dry out and they start to get like red, the blood vessels in eyes, whatever. Anyway. And it feels like a lot of, I feel like this vision of power just got a lot more interesting because it feels like there's a difference between like a true vision of power versus like the vision of the powerful. And this is a capital P power. Works of malediction and death is also interesting because it's like it's this, especially next to the angel of truth. The works of malediction, it's all of the things behind the scenes that go to making what was uttered appear to be true, right? And so it's like if someone's like, well, if you don't, oh, girl, I'm like, can I find a metaphor, please? That's not. It's like if you don't do X, then Y is going to happen. But the works of the malediction is like all of the things that prevent Y from happening. So it's like it's not a natural occurrence. It's the works of the malediction. So, for example, it's like if you don't clean your room, then you're not gonna go to the party, right? And if you don't have the ability to like if you're depending on someone to take you to the party and they set the condition, then the works of that malediction is like them not taking you. Because in reality, if you don't clean your room, somebody else could give you a ride to the party. Within that specific metaphor, there's an inherent authority that you would assume the person making the statement has to control whether or not the person can go to the party. But in reality, just because someone says if you don't clean your room, you can't go to the party, it doesn't mean you can't walk to the party. It doesn't mean you can't call an Uber or a Lyft. It doesn't mean you can't find another way. But the work behind it would be them limiting your access or them limiting your ability to actually do the thing. So it's like you have this vision of like this vision of power on one side of truth. And then on the other side of truth, you have the ability of the powerful to make something appear to be a certain way. What's 128? Because we have like this tau minus 400. So we got to go beyond that. I don't even, it says tau minus 400. And then it's like 528 here. So 528 minus 400 is 128. 128 is the sun. Oh, then it's 28. So either the sun, justice, and strength, or the sun, strength, and justice. 20 is the second two, which is 11. And 8 is the first 8, which is 8. Again, 8 and 11 are interchangeable. Also, No, it's 118. 7118. So instead of 1 1, if you break the 2 into 11, because the second 2 is 11, then this is 5118, where the ICC, the iced coffee, was 7118. Anyway, it's fine. There is no third 5. The third 5 would be 23, and there's no 23rd major. But actually, because of this whole setup and situation, it would be 2 steps beyond the world. The world is 21. This is the world. But again, it's this world where life has sort of like curled in on itself, where there's this, if it's the shadow of Venus, where it's a focus on comfortability, maintaining the status quo, and not stepping out of line unless the big bad crocodile coming at you. Like this here is the world, and we can go 2 steps beyond for me to, so you can like see it here, for you to actually see. Right? That would be the 5. Daniel waits at the threshold. I feel like my head is both like simultaneously like exploding, but also not, because it feels like there's a, like a profoundly simple energy here, right? Like let's say for example, someone's someone's like, oh, you have no talent as an artist, and no one's ever going to buy your work or whatever. Someone of relative prominence, right? But it's like, so like there's an artist that puts their stuff out, and true to the malediction, no one buys their art, but it's like that person has the power, authority, connections to pressure everyone else into not buying the art. But let's say one day there's a stranger that comes and they buy the piece and they take the piece back to where they're from, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, where'd you get it? And they're like, oh, they're like, there's this local artist at this place where I went to. And now outside of the power, authority, influence, outside of that, now there's this influx, and they will sell. Or if the artist travels outside of that localized area, again, like a different sphere of influence, spheres of influence, with the outside person, with the visitor, that visitor exists outside of the sphere of influence where that malediction holds power. And then it's like the artist through that connection can exit one sphere. It's almost like a bridge. We saw the bridge. Oh, it was the bridge. Yeah. The bridge with the clocks and the birds, the day birds and the night birds. Yeah, yeah. That's what that was. Superb owl. That's what it was. Okay. I remember the last one now. Kinda. Um and the vision of power would be whoever that artist is. It's like in this, the vision of power would be them knowing that they are talented and knowing that their art has purpose and meaning, and that it, trusting, because it's the vision, that that purpose would be fulfilled. And so if you could win the artist, if the artist, when, if and when the artist holds true to that vision to keep creating, that's when like the fateful encounter, the stranger, the traveler, the roamer. We just saw, who was it? Not the nomad in the mausolea oracle of souls. I don't remember. Anyway, it's like, and then that's when the truth of the vision comes to pass outside of the influence of whatever this works of malediction and death is. Because as influential as something may be locally, Like there's a whole world. And there are worlds beyond the world. Cool. Hey, it's not been 3 hours. I feel like I can end this here. Administrative intelligence. Oh yeah, that definitely that whole administrative um that sphere localized whatever the works of the malediction. It's like the word itself means nothing. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Words of power, it's like a word of power has its own influence, and then whatever this malediction stuff is, it has no influence, so it must be enforced. Meaning, like, again, there are works that have to be done in order for something to come to be because the word itself holds no power. There's no substance. Or, at the very least, a misalignment may be built upon a misunderstanding or an attempted editing. Right. Like, to hoard, you can't be. Anyway, it is what it is. And I gotta go further. Cool. I mean, I do have. I don't have to open that deck though. I just put the box on the table because I had to get that to get the other one. Not necessary. Okay, let's get final cards. So yeah, basically, take it as it resonates when it resonates. If it don't resonate, don't take it. Who is this at the cut? Exciting intelligence with the tower. Interesting. Oh, we have pi. Tau is also equal to 2 pi in the mathematical whatever. Hod is the bridge, or the tower. This exciting intelligence is the bridge between Hod and Netzah. I'm not even going to try any more than that. The left and the right leg. What is it? Hod, left leg submission, and Netzah endurance, maybe. And again, like I said, I'm using this little book. I don't know. I don't necessarily have a desire to go any deeper. Left leg submission, right leg endurance. Cool. If it means something more or different to you, take it as it resonates. When it resonates, use your own discernment. Sandalphon, angel of new life. Oh, this is interesting. This is so interesting because Sandalphon, angel of new life. Sandalphon, according to, again, this is what we got to work with. Sandalphon is, it's like Enoch, or Metatron is to Enoch as Sandalphon is to Elijah. Right. When Enoch ascended mortality and became the angel Metatron, Elijah, and you can still see kind of like the fire, the fire. Okay. With the angel truth. Okay. Because like Elijah was what swept up. Let me read it. Let me read it. I'm gonna find it. Because this is actually worth finding. It's like you still in the imagery of Sandalphon. You see, in Elijah's new life was as Sandalphon. What does that mean in terms of everything goes on? Take it as it resonates. When it resonates, use your discernment. Elijah. Bible. A prominent 9th century BC Old Testament prophet who served in the northern kingdom of Israel during King Ahab's reign, championing the worship of Yahweh over Baal. Dramatic, miracle filled ministry. Elijah famously confronted Ahab and Jezebel, brought down fire on Mount Carmel, raised the dead, and ascended to heaven in a whirlwind. There you go. The ascension. Maybe I should have just the ascension of Elijah. Elijah did not die, but was carried to heaven in a chariot of fire. 2 Kings 2:11. 2 Kings 2:11. 2:11. With the second 2 being the 11th. Anyway. It was like you kind of sort of see that fire. I mean, it's kind of clouds, but anyway. She's giving. And Keter spirituality is behind Sandalphon. Again, Keter sort of the crown, that being the space that the fires of Phanuel came from. Interesting. The torch is the vessel. Take it as it resonates. When it resonates, if it don't resonate, don't take it. It's a different sphere of influence beyond what has been, what there is precedent for, and what we may view of as possible. Because more than anything, a lot of times we limit ourselves, and that self-limitation is also what gives malediction power, especially when we go into it. Right? All right, cool. We're going to get that last final tarot of magical correspondences. This actually wasn't as frightening as it is sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, I'm not into all the esoterica. There's a whole bunch of symbolism. I don't know. I have limited interest, meaning I'm not completely uninterested, but also not completely interested either. I go where my whimsy takes me, and the winds aren't blowing in that direction. All right, final card. Do I need a final card? Yeah, we'll get a final card. All right, let me hush. There we go. I don't know. Okay, cool. Who was that? All right, come on. There it is. Sanctifying intelligence. What I love about sanctifying intelligence, especially after the radical intelligence married with the disciplined wisdom. I guess disciplined wisdom in a way kind of is discernment. It's been sanctified, especially with Sandalphon, angel of new life. Sandalphon being the Elijah who was given new life, who ascended to the heavens without dying, and now a sanctified intelligence. Interesting. Bina, which is left eye knowledge. We see the left eye to the right eye. Wait, this is another right eye, right? Yeah, because this thingy is on the inside. Anyway, there's a bee, there's a cat, there's more fire. Oh, it's the Queen of Wands. The vision of sorrow. This is like sanctifying intelligence with the vision of sorrow is big, like Kuan Yin energy. Bodhisattvic Kuan Yin energy, very much so within the realm of Sandalphon Elijah. Take it as resonates again, but those who became more for whatever reason. There are many paths, I'm sure. There are many virtues. I don't want to say there are many virtues for which to become the paragon of, but it's kind of sort of that energy. There are many virtuous paths, many paths of virtue. There you go. I don't know what this thing is. She's almost given like Shiva Lingam, like, no, because that's a different shape. Am I gonna look at that? Nah. More fire though. Bottom of the deck, radical intelligence, 5 of cups. This time we have the tongue. Are all of the eyes right eyes? Because I think they're just about the senses. Anyway, that Gavora again. There's a 6 of cups energy here because there are 6 vessels. There's this 6 of cups energy, but it's like 5 of cups. This 5 of cups, another vision of power. Is that an emitter? I was watching Hunter, but at least a week ago at this point, and there's the test to see what kind of, there are like 6 classes of, you could say, some spiritual biological force. And the way to test one of the schools, it was like something like, I want to say like water dragon, not Mizuri or Tsui Ryu, maybe. It's like they put the leaf on a glass of water, and if you are one thing, then it like there's a lot more water, like it overflows with water. If you're another thing, then it's like it creates this current in the water where the leaf shifts. If you're another thing, then blah blah blah, whatever. I don't remember. But one character, they go up and they do their thing, and nothing happens to the water. And the character is like, well, does that mean like, well, the character is like, what does that mean? Do I not have this nin ability? And then the guy's like, taste the water, right? The change to the water was one of taste. It's this. And so that's kind of more so just like, if we use other metrics, or if we evaluate, judge ourselves or for ourselves based upon what happens for others, then we could very likely miss out on something that's true for us or something that is for us. Because in the same situation, assuming they didn't have a teacher, but they came upon this information, right? The one guy, the water starts to overflow. The other guy, the leaf starts to move. And then the third guy, nothing happens. So he just thinks he doesn't have capacity for that ability. And again, in the absence of the teacher, he could have gone his whole life thinking he didn't have any kind of ability because he never tasted the water. He didn't think to taste the water until he was told to taste the water by the person that was sort of in that hierophant place, the place of the one that is more knowledgeable, that positions themselves to help inform, train, or raise another. This is Mars and Scorpio with this whatever interlocking fire, I'm assuming, triangles. And even I feel like that's very Queen of Wands energy. The Queen of Wands is her own person, and she's magnetic. right? She's that kind of uniqueness, that kind of there can only be one. If something is one in a million, then there's what, 8,000? And if they're one in a billion, then there's eight. I mean, we don't necessarily have to go that far. But again, there's something here where it's like it's engaging a different sense. This is the first time we see taste to further like verify or validate. So low hanging fruit for this could be very much so like just because you don't see a transformation or just because you don't see a difference, don't assume that there's no effect or impact or that your efforts are wasted or that you are not seen or that you are not heard. With the Six of Cups here, and this like Six of Cups being like nostalgia or something from childhood, Five of Cups being sorrow, grief, or spilled cups. Um, it's like if someone already kind of sort of believes because of experiences of the past that things are kind of gonna go a certain way, then that it can be even more difficult to stand in this Queen of Wands, self-assured, confident energy, right? So in the example of the artist, right? Let's say they escape that sphere of influence, they move to a new city where no one knows whoever the source of that malediction was in the old place. And they put up like they are doing their artist thing and they're still not selling any of their work or they're still not finding their audience, then like that Six of Cups, Five of Cups energy for them could be that like, oh, like maybe they were right. That like I don't have any talent and I'm never gonna whatever, whatever. But it could be because that holds so much presence in their mind, it affects what they do and how they show up. So let's say that there's an exhibition that's held, and rather than showing up for that visibility and finding their audience, they kind of get in their own head and they're like, oh, I'm not good enough like to exhibit my work. I'm gonna go to like a smaller venue or whatever. It's like there are these opportunities, potential opportunities for someone to find their audience, but they kind of psych themselves out and they don't show up where they would be like more prominent or more visible. So now the malediction is like perpetuating itself within someone because of what was done and said before. And again, it may be that like, oh, nothing's changed, nothing's different. But if you were to taste the water, you would see that something has changed. Anyway, and was that an emitter? I mean, it wouldn't be hard to look it up. It wouldn't be hard, and it wouldn't necessarily be too time consuming either because, oh, Killua. There was someone that used to come on here. Killua. Killua. Okay. Nin type. If I could. He's a transmuter, which allows him to change the properties of his aura to mimic something else entirely. He specifically does it with electricity. This ability was inspired by and made possible due to the years of electric shock torture and training he received as a child. So again, it's playing into that Six of Cups, Five of Cups energy. He can enhance his speed and reaction time exponentially, and that plays into the Tao being about time. Also, the Tao of rebirth could be what was intended as, or what was painful, now transformed, reborn as an aspect of power, that capital P power. That can be tricky. It's like it could be tricky to turn it into a capital P power without holding on to the baggage of what it was before. Right. Also, transmutation. Love it. For obvious reasons. He's a transmuter. All right. Angelarium. Final angel. Oh. Okay. All right. All right. This is. I'm trying to like. Oh, there we go. I was able to put the rest face down. Ooh, that would have been a lot. Two cards came out: Sahakiel, Angel of the Sky, and Da'at, Null, Emptiness. Again, that it, like an empty sky, kind of sort of giving, not an empty, like the null in the sky, kind of giving the increased gap between the. I literally just had the word firmament. I was thinking like paramour. I'm like, not the paramour. Between the firmament and like the sky. Also, it could also be like, again, what's with the things of one sphere of influence that evade the other sphere or elude the other sphere. Again, that's like risky. And your hopefully your discernment and intuition. It's like it would be able to tell where a void, a lack, or an absence in one sphere, it's like that void is a gateway to another sphere, right? The bottom of the deck is Chakma Right Eye Wisdom. So we had Left Eye Bina in the magical correspondences. Now we have the right eye here. Yeah. And it was that disciplined wisdom, right? That we saw in the Five of Wands. That disciplined wisdom, that discernment would tell us when the it's like the difference between a black hole and a wormhole. It's like if you were to look at it, a wormhole and a black hole would be visually indistinct. Could be. But that black hole, that null, that void in the sky is actually like a wormhole. It leads to another place, it leads to the other sphere. And wisdom will be your guide, your discernment would be your guide in differentiating black holes from wormholes, but also traversing the wormhole. I almost want to put, I guess I can. Because it should be like right here in the Angelarium year 2. Yeah, we talked about the bridge before. There's a gate of Sahakiel. What was that? Did I lose a card? I'll have to look. Oh, do one more and a cut. I'm gonna look before and after the gate of Sahakiel. Is it in this deck? I feel like, well, these are all angels. But I only had these two for a while, so it has to be in here. Right? I feel like it's not in here. I don't know. Cause I know the Gate of Sahakiel and Sahakiel are in different decks. Oh, it is in this one. Okay. We have Azazel, Angel of Sacrifice, and Ambriel, Angel of Gemini. Remiel, Angel of Visions, was after the Angel of Gemini. And to have the vision of sorrow and the vision of power. The Queen of Wands held the vision of sorrow. The five of the six of cups. No, it was the five. The five of cups held the vision of power. Was pain was turned into power, and how tricky it can be sometimes to hold on to that power, but relinquish the pain. I'm gonna put that one down too. Hamaliel, Angel of Virgo, is so, but flanking the Angel of Visions was the Angel of Virgo and the Angel of Gemini. Mercury rules both Virgo and Gemini. I mean, yeah, because June, why not? Mercury rules both Virgo and Mercury retrograde is going to happen in approximately 10 days because it was like the 26th. It's retrograding in Pisces. Pisces obviously is a sign associated with visions because, 12th house, Pisces, Neptune, also Jupiter. And we're in the pre retrograde. We have to be in the pre retrograde shadow by now, at the very least. What's also interesting with this double vision, or with this call back to the vision of sorrow and the vision of power, is we have Azazel, Angel of Sacrifices. This is the Gate of Sahakiel, by the way. Sahakiel, the angel that came out with Da'at, Null, or the Void. There's Sahakiel's gate. Cool. It's like there are two different ways. Which Azazel is this? The first Watcher of the North. And Sandalphon was associated. Elijah. Yeah. Is also Elijah was a prominent 9th century BC Old Testament prophet who served in the northern kingdom of Israel during King Ahab's reign. So there's a reference to the north again. And again, with these two visions, the vision of sorrow and the vision of power, Elijah being reborn as Sandalphon, angel of new life, it feels like it's all playing together. Azazel taught mankind how to forge weapons them and respecting this power. Throughout those first years, he never wavered in his dedication to enriching the lives of mankind. In ways large and small, he sought to raise them up. Despite his efforts, Azazel was the first to be blamed when the catastrophe began. With mankind's trust broken, every bit of goodwill he had built was traded for an equal amount of resentment. And so the whole thing was with Azazel being the one that basically brought weapons to mankind with the vision of sorrow and the vision of power, with Azazel tutoring them. And I love it's tutored because when you tutor, you can only do so much, right? And a tutor and a teacher are two different things. In some ways, teachers test and evaluate, and tutors just attempt to correct for or fill in gaps in knowledge. It's like under the vision of power, capital P, power. That's where you get your angel of new life, Sandalphon Elijah becomes Sandalphon energy. With the vision of lowercase p power, which is the vision of the powerful, which is the vision of the uppercase S sorrow, that's when you get the catastrophe, or those who participate in, play into the catastrophe, that break trust and turn goodwill into resentment. And again, it feels like that's that fine line of finding and being in one's power, but relinquishing pain. And again, it feels like we full circled right back into that dicey territory that this started in. I feel like that whole like what we prioritize energy came out because there are, yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. I wonder if one Sahakiel, not Sahakiel, if one Sandalphon is enough to justify question mark the catastrophe question mark, or to reduce the amount of resentment. This could also be a play on with Sahakiel, and Sahakiel is on the right. The null emptiness is on the left. This could be a play on Sun and Leo. When the sun is there, we have a sky because we get an atmosphere. Yeah, yeah. The sky is blue because of the filtration of the light or whatever, girl. Blue skies on Earth during the day. But it's like when Saturn was the sun, because Saturn isn't luminous, that would be this dark null emptiness where we can't differentiate the sky from the rest of space. And you may ask, well, can we differentiate the sky from space on Earth? Yeah. Yeah. Because at night you see the stars, but in the daytime, you know that they're not like right there, right? I don't know. Anyway, take it as it resonates. When it resonates, if it don't resonate, don't take it. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. I hope you all have an amazing whatever. Whenever you see this, I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that whatever you need along your path journey, what you find. And yeah, I'll see you when I see you.